Alright guys, with Star Trek Resurgence around the corner, I thought it would be a great time to sit down and discuss the story so far with the 5-issue prequel comic. So let's get started. First, let's introduce the characters from the comic. Let's start with one of our guest stars, Dr. Leah Brahms, who you should remember from TNG. In this story, Brahms is on a personal mission to build a revolutionary new warp engine. Next up, commanding the USS Resolute, is Captain Solano. Solano worked with Brahms at the Utopia Polynesia 7 years ago before being recalled to duty during the Dominion War. The XO of the Resolute and the main character for this comic is Commander Luke Sutherland. We've also got the Vulcan Chief Engineer, Mr. Chovak, who's a typical hard-to-impress Vulcan. The Resolute's a science vessel, and the Chief Science Officer on board is Commander Ben Westbrook. Operations is headed up by Commander Jan Urmot, a Bolian. On tactical, there's Araxi Bendrosian, and Helm has the Bajoran Lieutenant Handar. And lastly, on Chief Medical, there's Dr. Iram Duval. Now let's dive into the story. The comic focuses on the crew of the USS Resolute as they are sent on a mission to recover Dr. Brahms, who's gone missing on a planet bordering Tellurian space. Brahms was researching a new warp core design that could revolutionize warp travel, and the Tellurians want to use her design to get a leg up against their enemies. On the trail of Brahms, the Resolute finds the Tellurian militia and a ship captained by Jono Endar, who you might remember from the TNG episode Suddenly Human. While Solano and Sutherland get a reasonably warm greeting from Endar, Tellurian Commandant Hector arrives with Brahms, who's been working with the Tellurians so she could get her engine built. Brahms decides to use the Resolute as her test bed, and because of his relationship with Brahms, and because Hector gives them little choice, Solano is willing to act in good faith and let them use his ship while he negotiates for his crew's freedom. Sutherland's got other plans, and while Solano is working on the upgrade with Brahms, he's going around making plans with the crew and Jono to escape. By faking a plasma breach, Sutherland gets all the Tellurians to flee from the Resolute, and they start to make a run for it. Solano is pissed because Sutherland went behind his back, and because they need warp power to escape, decides to use the now modified Brahms engine. The engine gets them away from the Tellurians, but starts destabilizing the warp matrix. Solano is going to vent the plasma and stop the ship blowing up, but Sutherland takes his place, and with some help from Westbrook, they save the ship for a short time. The warp core's still going to explode though, so now they perform a saucer separation, with Sutherland pushing Westbrook into an escape pod and flying the star drive away from the saucer to protect the crew and take out Hector in the process. Weeks later, back at a Federation starbase, Solano offers his resignation, which is not accepted. The whole mission and its consequences have been classified. And that's where we end the comic, with the Resolute in need of a new star drive and first officer. The game is set 6 months later, in 2380, a year after the events of Star Trek Nemesis and the same year as the first season of Lower Decks. During the game, you play as the Resolute's new first officer, Commander Jara Rydek, and Petty Officer Carter Diaz. Jara is a Kobliad who was top of her class at the Academy and battle-tested in the Dominion War. Kobliads are a little-seen race from DS9. You may remember Vantika.
Ray O. Vantika.
From the episode The Passenger. Diaz is a lower-decker type, working as an engineer alongside Nili Edsilar, an unjoined Trill who rebelled against what was expected of her by enlisting in Starfleet. In the game, the ship is tasked by Ambassador Spock, voiced by Piotr Michael, on a diplomatic mission dealing with two species, the Hortai and the Alderian, who are on the brink of war. At the same time, you have to navigate interactions between the crew and the fallout from the Tellurian incident, such as Solano wanting a big win after his failing, and Ben being resentful of Jara after not being promoted to the first officer position after Sutherland's death. We're also going to see at least one other face from the wider Star Trek universe, as it's been revealed Captain Riker will be turning up. So that's Star Trek Resurgence, launching next week on the 23rd of May on consoles and on the Epic Game Store. Are you excited for the game? Tell me below. I'm probably going to be streaming my playthrough on this channel, so subscribe to see that.